Right now, you are absolutely certain about something that never happened. You don't know it yet? You can't know it. That's the whole problem. There is a memory sitting somewhere in your mind, vivid, detailed, maybe even emotional, that your brain assembled from scraps, filled in with guesses, and then quietly labeled as real. And the strangest part is that every time you remember it, you change it a little more. Your memory is not a recording. It never was. Most people assume memory works the way a camera works. You experience something, the brain captures it, and later you press play. The image comes back the same way it went in. Clean, accurate, yours. But that's not what's happening. Not even close. What your brain actually does is closer to a novelist than a camera. It takes a few real details, a smell, a feeling, the color of a shirt, and it builds a story around them. It fills the gaps. It borrows textures from other memories. It adjusts the ending to match how you feel about the person now, and then it presents the whole constructed thing to your conscious mind as if it just found it in a filing cabinet. You don't retrieve memories. You rebuild them. Every single time. This isn't a flaw. It's a design choice your brain made millions of years before you were born. The neuroscientist Endel Tulving was one of the first researchers to draw a clean line between two types of memory: semantic memory, which stores facts, and episodic memory, which stores personal experiences. What Tulving found was that episodic memory isn't passive storage, it's reconstructive. Your brain recreates the past using present knowledge, present emotion, and present context. The you doing the remembering is never the same you who lived through the original event. Think about that for a second. Every memory you have of your childhood has been filtered through every version of yourself you've been since then. Every argument you've replayed, every embarrassment you've rehearsed, every moment you've told as a story at a dinner table, each retelling slightly polished, slightly adjusted, slightly more you. You've been editing your own autobiography without realizing it. Elizabeth Loftus spent decades proving exactly how fragile this process is. In one of the most famous experiments in cognitive psychology, she showed participants footage of a car accident and then asked them questions about what they'd seen. When she asked how fast the cars were going when they smashed into each other, people gave significantly higher speed estimates than when she used the word hit. Same footage, same accident, different word, and the memory changed. But it gets stranger. In a follow-up study, Loftus asked people about broken glass at the scene. There was no broken glass. But participants who'd been asked the smashed version of the question were far more likely to remember seeing it. She hadn't just influenced how they remembered an event. She had implanted a detail that never existed. Your memory doesn't just decay. It can be rewritten by a stranger with a word. This is called the misinformation effect, and it doesn't require dramatic intervention. It happens every time someone tells you how they remember a shared experience differently. It happens when you Google something after the fact. It happens when you talk about the past with your family and someone says, "No, that's not how it went." Your brain listens, and it updates the file. But why? Why would evolution design a memory system this unreliable? Because reliability isn't the point. Survival is. Your ancestors didn't need a perfect archive of the past. They needed a brain that could quickly extract patterns, predict danger, and adapt to new information. A rigid, unchanging memory system would actually be a liability. If you burned your hand on a fire 5 years ago, you don't need every detail of that day. You need the lesson. If the person who hurt you once looks different now, you need your threat assessment to update, not to stay frozen in the past. Flexible memory is intelligent memory. The problem is that it's also a memory that lies to you, and the brain doesn't just passively distort, it actively fills in. Daniel Schachter, a memory researcher at Harvard, described what he called the 7 sins of memory. One of the most powerful is called misattribution, where you remember something correctly but assign it to the wrong source. You're certain you thought of an idea, but you actually heard it from a podcast 2 weeks ago. You swear you told your partner about the meeting, but the memory of telling them is actually a memory of planning to tell them. Your brain doesn't just store what happened, it stores what almost happened, what should have happened, and what you thought about what happened. and it doesn't always keep those lanes separate. Then there's the concept of source monitoring failure. When a memory forms, your brain is supposed to tag it with context. When it happened, where you were, who told you. But those tags are imperfect, and sometimes they fall off entirely. So you end up with a memory with no origin, a feeling of knowing something without knowing how you know it, a certainty that belongs to nothing. This is part of why eyewitness testimony is far less reliable than courts once believed. A 2020 review of over 350 wrongful conviction cases in the United States found that faulty eyewitness identification was a contributing factor in roughly 69% of them. These weren't liars. They weren't guessing. They were people who remembered, vividly, confidently, in detail, something that had been constructed rather than captured. Confidence is not accuracy. Your brain never told you that, but now you know. And it gets even more personal than a courtroom. Think about your earliest memory. Where were you? How old? What do you see? Now consider this. Most people cannot form retrievable long-term episodic memories before the age of about 3. This phenomenon is called childhood amnesia, and it's linked to the incomplete development of the hippocampus in early childhood. But many people, a surprisingly large number, report vivid memories from age 2, age 1, sometimes even before birth. Where did those memories come from? From photographs, from stories your parents told, from family videos watched so many times that the brain eventually filed the image as a direct experience. Your brain took a story about you and converted it into a memory of you. And you never noticed. You are, in some measurable sense, partly a character in a story you've been told about yourself. This doesn't mean you can't trust anything. It means something more interesting than that. It means memory is not a passive record. It's an active process. Your brain is not a camera. It is a storyteller. And right now, without you noticing, it is writing the next line.